Hey guys, welcome back to the Kaiyo cast. It is episode 31. We have Khang here. Welcome. How's your day going today?
I am good. I just got out of work and I'm definitely not tired at all. I promise.
Oh, totally. Like work is just sometimes draining, like very draining.
Yeah.
Also, my brain had a brain fart of like, I was gonna say your name because I really wanted to, and I was like, no, we're just going with Khang. I was like, I'm so gonna mess that up.
Nah, it's okay. No one says my full name usually.
I mean, usually with people's names like that, like kind of how that goes is like, I'll like see a name, I'll just like shorten it because it's like it's easier. For example, if it's like I'll just say a Kai for like my friend. It's like shortening names is easier. Why do you gotta say the full thing? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. I agree with that.
How'd you kind of
Yes.
find virtual reality? How did that kind of come a thing for you?
Yeah. So I'm actually one of the older players of VRChat. I joined the game, I believe, I want to say 2018, maybe 2017, but I'm pretty sure it was 2018 when the game was pretty new. I started playing in desktop, but eventually I switched over to VR. But there was like this weird gap of like a year or two between me first playing the game and me actually like getting VR because I was in college and I didn't have time for it.
Yeah. I mean, VR is very like crazy of a place. I mean, for a lot of people, how they find it, it's usually that it's like, oh, I found it through like a friend or something, or I just stumbled upon it, or like I was always into technology sort of thing.
No, I just played the game or played games on Steam, and that was kind of how I found VRChat. Actually, was through Steam. And me and my
Mm-mm.
friends at the time, we started playing it just because it seemed kind of fun. Like it's like a virtual chat room, which was, I mean, there were things like that, but not like the type that VRChat was, and it was just there's a lot of trolling early on,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
not the type of trolling that's in VRChat nowadays. It was just goofy stuff.
So like early back in like, if we're talking like VR chat troll days, like 2017, 2018 was like when I first heard about VR chat. I was around, oh God, like I was in like middle school. I was like, oh my,
Oh
oh God,
dang.
oh yeah, oh no, oh no, oh no. Yeah, I was like in like seventh or eighth grade. I'm like realizing like I'm kind of young. Oh shit. Oh,
I mean, VRChat back then was kind of it
yeah,
was pretty lighthearted, so it really wasn't that bad.
yeah. It was more like kind of just like play VR chat and like mess around type thing and have fun. It was like 2017,
Yeah,
2018. Yeah. Oh
pretty
my
much.
God. I've seen the old what was it like the VRC menu and everything. I've heard like
Oh
people,
yeah.
yeah, I've heard like people like the old one better, and then like the new one now is like more optimized. Like Tupper was talking about this last night a little bit of like how it's more optimized, how they like had to redo a bunch of stuff, and like how VR chat's so much more optimized now than it was in way back. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I will say people like a lot of the thing that people really seem to miss the most are like the old or is the old VRChat loading screen because of like the music and kind of like that like tunnel that you're put in. It's very like nostalgic and it kind of feels like the old like 2015 era type like gaming.
heck yeah.
I kind of miss it too actually.
Was it the nostalgia or just like the noise? Like, what was the sound? Like, was it a very distinctive like boot up noise for the game?
It wasn't a boot up noise. It was like a soundtrack. It was like this
Oh,
simple piano tune. It felt very like I don't know, like humble is probably the word I'd use for it. Simple, but nostalgic. It kind of has that vibe.
heck yeah.
Not that the new menus or loading screens bad, but
I
it has a
mean,
vibe.
yeah, I think the new one's pretty good too. I know a lot of people that started playing. I don't remember when this one started becoming a thing, but like people that started playing later are like, "Oh, this one's pretty good because I quit for a while, come back and they hear it, and it's like VR
Yep.
chat." Yeah, it's very fun just to like hang out and like talk to people or log on and be like, "Hey, I want to watch a movie or something," and just like hang out. It's so chill,
Yeah.
so cool. But other than that, we're getting into the real meat and potatoes. Are you ready? I'm ready. Other than hanging out and talking with your buds and getting drunk on Friday nights in VR chat, we got VR film production. Hell yeah. Let's go. How did like you kind of get into the whole like film like before we even talk about like VR film, like how has movies and stuff and film always been like an interest of yours, or how did that come into your life? Like movies and production.
Yeah. So I've always liked film. So I'm a photographer in real life. And so I started out doing that when I was younger. And I've always wanted to do like filmmaking, like short films type things, especially in like high school. But quickly realized that okay, it's too expensive. There's like a lot of difficulty to get involved there, especially as like a younger person. In order to like get camera equipment, it's like thousands of dollars. To get actors, you have to find people. It was too much. And animation was just too difficult as well. Like I can't draw. I don't know anyone that could draw, or didn't at the time. And so I had an interest in filmmaking, but I didn't really act in it, or act on it until VRChat actually. So I told you guys that I had a gap between 2017 and 18 when I played VRChat and then actually got VR later on. And when I rejoined VRChat was when I realized, after working with a roleplay group that I used to be a part of, that you can actually tell stories in VR, and you can actually film them because there was the VRChat camera at the time, and there was also VRC lens, though we didn't start by using that. And right when I started making my first short film was in, I think, man, I get dates mixed up so bad, so I'm pretty sure it was like 2019, 2020. I'm pretty sure. But it was about 4.5 years ago when I first started my first short film. And so that's kind of how I got started into it. Always had a passion for filmmaking, could never act on it until VRChat, a medium where you can actually do something like that, more accessible.
Heck yeah. I mean, like film and everything, like the production of film, and like for when I was like a kid growing up and everything, like watching like films and everything, and I was like, these are all very cool, but like what I fell in love with back in like, it's like early on toward like fifth grade toward like middle school era around there was like, I was like, I want to learn what comes behind, like before like a film's even released or like the whole process. And I was like infatuated by it, but mostly by like the video editing part of it. Like what it's like, oh, it's like the production, the script writing, the storyboarding, the how like certain like shots in films are like really cool, and like those are just like so fun to like recreate and do in your own films. And video editing is just infatuating to me of like how everything comes back together.
Actually, that's kind of interesting because our workflow in VRChat filmmaking is relatively similar to IRL filmmaking or like the process for like animation. This is kind of like the weird thing about our medium is we don't know what we are because I mean you and I are in VRChat right now. We have trackers on, we have like headsets on, and we're wearing avatars, but we can't really classify ourselves as animation because we're not animating these characters. We're motion capturing them.
Yeah.
And we're not totally motion capture either because we're not totally like fully motion capture only. We have animations in our worlds, in the characters themselves, the expressions. And so I don't really know how to classify our medium. And that's kind of one of the struggles that we've gone with like the filmmaking VRChat medium is we don't know exactly what we are. But even so, with that being said, like the process of developing a VR film is kind of similar to real life. You start with your script, storyboard, that sort of thing, just like real life film. Then you develop that, and then you move to like pre-production. In this case, it'd be like developing worlds, similar to assembling like movie sets in real life. And then you move on to like preparing avatars, all that sort of stuff, basically costumes. And then you move into the actual production or filming, in which case we use VRC lens, and it basically gives us the capabilities of operating the equivalent of like a DSLR camera or just a camera in general, film camera. And it feels pretty real for what a virtual reality film production is. So that's kind of where it's fun. It's related to VR film or real life film, even though we are virtual.
Heck yeah. I mean, with a lot of that stuff, it's really interesting that it's like people are like, oh, it's probably a different whole process. And in some ways it is because like in the way of like, well, also it kind of like things link together because when you have to like go like make worlds, for example, or like do all the Unity stuff and like plan costumes and other thing, it's still kind of the same. But like the only other thing I'd say that's different is like kind of like building sets IRL is like building the world and like planning that and then like doing that whole process. And it's like, oh, like where do I want this? And then it's more I wouldn't say more time consuming, but it's like better, kind of, because like like it's mostly just time and not like money, if because like it's a crap ton of money to do a film. Like for example, like one of the most recent films that I think is really good and I love it is like the new what is it like the Godzilla -1 film was really good,
Yeah.
and that was like
Mm-hmm.
did not have like a crazy budget, I don't think, and it was like really good, and for the amount of effects and stuff they did do to it, and like the story was just amazing around like the main character, and there was only like one bit in the film that was like since this character survived, this other character might have, right? It's like speculation, but other than that, it was flawless of a film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just that production with like it kind of goes to show even if you have that kind of budget, because for a film it's like a pretty good budget, even like kind of like Japanese yen, but then like converting that over like an American budget, like these Marvel films have like $300 million or some shit, and I'm like, damn, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's where we don't have to worry about like stuff like that. So you brought up a really interesting idea. Is the idea of like, okay, we don't have to pay people to fly out to certain locations. We can all work from different locations. Our sets can be developed, and so we have access to any world we want, basically. So like, we're sitting here or standing here in a beach, right? We didn't have to fly out to, meet each other or anything like that. The same way with
Yeah.
sets. We can develop our sets and not have to fly out actors or anything like that. And so I'd say that VR filmmaking saves a lot of money. It's a very budget-friendly, type of production. And that's where we get our kicks is from the accessibility of it. That's part of the reason of why I could even do this to begin with. Like I do like real life filmmaking, but the difficulty of doing it, the expense of it, it's pretty high. And we can do it in VR and have very interesting stories that are still told. Again, similar to like animation. That's kind of what I compare what we are to, is like kind of 3D animation, if you will.
Yeah, of course. And speaking of like just filmmaking and money, like before YouTube and all this, like I've been around kind of like making things at least like video wise for like over 7 years. Like before this,
Oh,
I did like a lot of like filmmaking and like other like short film music video kind of stuff, and like I mean I started off in iMovie. I mean for real, start off with what you have and can, like that shit's scuffed as hell. iMovie on the damn like phone or the iPad.
I did
It
too.
was so pain. It was so pain. So pain. Yeah, but like
No,
speaking of like just that technology and like film cameras, sets, actors, props, it's so much stuff to worry about. Like more things like to keep I think like keep track of even like in IRL filmmaking.
no,
Yeah.
you're definitely right about that. There are like advantages and disadvantages of doing VR film. And like I said, one of the big advantages is like accessibility, different worlds, avatars at your disposal, like as in just everything that you can think of creatively in that sort of way. It allows us to do like any story that we'd really want. But kind of the cons of it are that because we're not animation, because we're not in real life, there's things that we have to worry about that the other mediums don't. Like for instance, clipping. When we try to like clap our hands, it doesn't look perfect. Our hands go through each other. That whole thing. And trying to do like a fight sequence in VR will get pretty complex pretty quick. You're not just dealing with the choreography anymore. You're dealing with having to like actually time out the movements, make sure you're not clipping, and that results in like taking many different shots over and over and over until you get it right. That's not even talking about like the camera stuff because again we're working with a medium that's motion captured and not all equipment is the same. We have to deal with like loss of tracking. We have to deal with clipping. We have to deal with like random technological problems. And so film sessions usually never go perfectly. And like we're okay with that. We know about it. But it's just a thing. And just like in real life, not it doesn't always go perfectly either, even for
Yeah.
big budget films. But we just have to deal with some interesting problems. And honestly, I'd say the most of it is to deal with like clipping, timing, like just game related problems, essentially. Did you lose your hands? Speaking of which.
how my goddamn hands don't want to goddamn track because Quest Pro controllers goddamn suck.
Right when we talk about tracking too.
I swear, this happens every goddamn time. What the? It's
I
so
feel it.
funny.
I feel
It's so funny. But I like half the time I'm doing this, I'm just yelling at my controller to damn track correctly. What the?
I completely understand that.
It's just funny, cause like with that of like, I will say this now. Anyone that's using a Quest Pro for facial eye tracking and other stuff for VR for virtual production, do not use the Quest Pro controllers. They are absolute shit. They are so bad. Just get base stations and find the other Valve controllers, because these things are pieces of shit. They're so bad.
I don't know how many of my actors actually use Quest Pros, but most of them use index controllers with whatever headset they have because of like the hand tracking that we use for filming.
Yeah.
But also stuff like that, like the loss of tracking gets really annoying, and so I understand it.
Like, it's supposed to be fine, and when these things work, they work like almost perfectly. Like, they're supposed to be able to do this.
Yeah.
They're supposed to do Quest Pro track thingies. I did this.
Yeah.
Why do they randomly fall asleep? What the fuck? They just do things. What the and then there's like overheating. It's like, it's not overheating. It's not that hot. It's like, what the fuck? I'm not even playing Beat Saber. And then it's like, are these controllers mentally ill or something, bro? Like, what the? What the hell?
I didn't even know controllers could overheat.
Yeah, I was like, what? So yeah, for your productions, tell people that never again, never Quest Pro controllers.
I do think that the majority of my actors don't have Quest controllers, so that should be okay.
Heck yeah. Yes. Oh my god, it's such a pain. It's such a pain. It's just the amount of like other things with like technological issues. Because for example, OBS sometimes just doesn't want to pick up things, and it's like that's more pain. And then with the amount of like other just like things with acting and just planning and other even on top of the like technological issues with like headsets die, this didn't work, index cable funny, pulley system probably.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things technically that could go wrong, and you basically listed out the majority of them. So, never had anyone that I know have it yet. Actually, I think one person I know has it, and they had the facial gasket problem thing where it just doesn't fit in their head because like it was printed weird. So
Why?
Yeah.
I swear, it's literally the fucking iPhone's fault. You have to do the dumbass face scan, and it's the damn iPhone's fault, and then you gotta go to my friend Twitch and fucking customer support at big screen, and it's like, the fucking iPhone is fucking stupid, and get my IPD correctly, and it didn't do the goddamn face gasket correctly, and it's like, goddamn it, it's always the iPhone's fault.
I don't even know what they do, so I'm just gonna assume that something messed up somewhere.
It's so bad. Technology sucks sometimes, but it's so cool. Come on.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're not cyberpunk yet, so.
I mean, cybernetics in the future, I think it happens in our lifetime. I mean, 100%, right? Come on. I think so. I think
probably
so.
say so. Hopefully, that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be so cool.
Or it could go really wrong. We'll see.
Oh, true. Or it could go really wrong. But, like, I just want to see where VR is going to be in 20 years. Like, if we have the iPhone, like, technology, just think of technology in a whole right now. The iPhone of, like, just where, like, we have, like, phones that could literally, like, connect with people and, like, do all that. And, like, VR headsets, right? 10, 15 years ago, we didn't have any of this. Where are we going to be in 20 years? That's shocking. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I would say nowhere near from, like, full dive technology. That's, like, way off. There's, like, no way we get, like, that level of immersion for a while, and that's, like, pretty scary. Where it's, like, you're literally, like, laying down, and you don't even have to do anything and you're in VR. Like, that's scary. A little.
I will say it'd be really good for filmmaking. But, like,
Yeah,
the
super realistic.
other things, not so much.
Yeah.
The other things that could go wrong.
Without the dying part, please, okay? This is not SAO. God damn.
Yeah.
We got a long way to go with VR and filmmaking, and it's like, but what we have now and working with what we have now, with like just
Hmm.
creating things. Like I feel like all my creative people, shout out to my creative people, for like a lot of people just have that like urge to like create things or like make things or like with these I just like to talk to friends and like hang out and like kind of just talk to cool people. I don't really know. I like making things. It's just
Yeah.
like yeah, or like the whole chill aspect of like kind of just like running with it and going with like no script and like it's fun because it's easy on everyone. It's kind of just like cool conversation, but there's a camera, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
Also, I'm not saying like pre-production and everything for like points for like a podcast, for like having like pre-planned points or like even other things or like having like a script or anything is like bad or anything. I'm just like sometimes just kind of going for it and YOLO and kind of just like do whatever is kind of just like fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that.
but with a good amount of planning, things turn out really well too. I do like a good storyboard or a good script.
Yeah, I will say, when I started out doing filmmaking, I was very not like planned out. So I guess it's important to note that when I started my very first film, and again, I'm guessing 2019, I could pull it up, I forgot. But anyways, VR chat filmmaking was really not a thing that much. There were people that made videos in VR chat and like kind of skits and stuff, but like the more serious sort of filmmaking wasn't really a thing until well around 2019. I love to credit Acme Jack because I love his film. It was the kind of thing that kicked me off, but his film Derailed was kind of the thing that got me to think, oh, wait, you can like actually film stuff. And that was one of the things that got me going in terms of filmmaking. It was pretty like slow for a while because our medium was very new and there was not a lot of like, hey, do this. You know, there were not a lot of procedures, not a lot of people that did it, and so things were being developed on the fly to like I guess make our filmmaking more accessible, more easy. And so it took a while for me to actually cement like the processes of like how to create a film. Again, there's like okay, well, when you make a film in real life, there's procedures. There's okay, you start with writing, brainstorming, then
Yep.
storyboard, then you know the whole thing. But at the time, we couldn't really fully do that because we didn't know what we could do. Like you
Or
can
no, like
grab
the
a camera, right?
capability.
But you yeah, like the
Yeah.
capability. Like we can grab a camera, we can film something, but like we didn't know. Okay, what about like the 100% clipping through the ground problems, fighting? Like it's just we had to experiment for a while, and so for a hot like basically year or 2 years after, like derailed essentially, film was kind of figuring itself out. It wasn't until even like relatively recently when I established the studio Penrose that we finally got down like, okay, this is our procedures for filmmaking. This is what needs to be done before each film, in order to prevent people from like getting burnt out and like reducing the amount of like problems that we encounter on set. Um, and so I like to say that we're still like learning quite a bit. There's things that are improving. There's things that are like growing in terms of technology that keeps advancing. But our procedures have gotten a lot better. Like for instance, I used to take like 4 hours of film session just to do like the simplest scene. Like for instance, we had a scene from one of my very first films where we have like a police officer chasing after a suspect with a couple other police officers, and something like that was very complex for me back then because it was this drone shot that was panning on top of everyone. And
Oh,
I didn't
that
really know
sounds
how to
really
use a
cool.
drone, and so
Yeah.
it took like 4 hours to do that,
Mm.
just to do that one single shot. But nowadays, that's just a normal shot for us. Like we can do that in like 30 minutes max. Like that's kind of how like we've developed over time, and so like the processes have grown. But like I used to be very disorganized about all that stuff.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of people that like get into creative things or like film. It's kind of just like a learning curve. I call a little bit because it's like even with like video editing, it's like I'm calling out Premiere right now. It's literally just like, oh, you want to make things, chucks you in. Oh, there's no goddamn tutorial. You better know what you're goddamn doing because there's like no damn tutorial. You go on YouTube. You want a tutorial? You go on YouTube. There's nothing. It's like you better know what you're doing. It's like what the. I don't know what I'm doing. I did
Yeah.
not know what I was doing. It was like learn, self-taught, learn things. It's crazy.
It's definitely one of those things with like editing, for instance, like what you were saying. It's one of those things where you have to like go on YouTube, you have to like research like
Yeah.
tutorials and stuff like that. Because like I when I first started out, I didn't really know I was doing in editing either, and so my workflow was pretty bad. But like eventually I started learning tips and tricks, and I'm still learning quite a bit in Premiere. I'm still like learning how to do certain things, but it's gotten better. And that's just like kind of the process of filmmaking is you grow and you develop. Like your very first film is not going to be the same as your very recent film, so
Yeah.
kind of fun that way. You're always like learning something.
Very fun stuff. I mean, like, same with script writing. I was so bad with script writing for the longest time. Because it's like, it's just like the blockage of like, oh, I have this. Where do I want to take this? How do I want to? It's like story kind of doing story things. It's like, and then connecting the script to the editing to the shots to everything. And it's like, dude, is this how I want to do it? Or yeah, it's like, you got to get, like, kind of figure everything out. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, so one thing that I really do want to throw some appreciation out for my team members. Studio Penrose was formed, like my film studio was formed about like was it like almost a year ago now, almost a year ago. Um, and one of the things that I found to be very like helpful is working within a studio of people you really trust and Like, there are things that I'm not very good at. Like you brought up like script writing. Me too. I'm actually not great with script writing. I'm definitely not great with dialogue. I sometimes talk like a robot in terms of the scripts. And so I have people that are my friends who help me like fix these scripts and check work and stuff like that. And I really appreciate that. And that's kind of where the fun aspect of filmmaking is usually you don't just do stuff on your own. It's like a team building, teamwork,
Yeah.
These films would not be possible without the body actors. They would not be possible without the soundtrack designers, the script writers, the dev people. And so no matter what, there's always going to be like something interesting going on in terms of filmmaking and running a studio. And that's kind of how I keep myself from being bored all the time. It's like there's always a new thing to work on, a new challenge or a new film.
Yeah. And kind of in this space with like learning like new things. And like, I just tell people like, just constantly like learning new things is what kind of keeps your mind busy a little bit of like not like kind of getting burnt out and everything. But of course, like a good balance of like, like spacing out work, like making sure everyone's doing okay. Of course, because there's so much people part of the project. It's like there's the director, then there's like the other thing. You got your body actors, then you got a bunch of the miscellaneous stuff. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, burnout is really terrible. I actually want to talk about that because that's something that I bring up quite often when I like coach other people or when I like do panels and stuff like that because it's something that's kind of talked about but not like emphasized enough. Especially in the VR space that we're in. We are working as volunteers the majority of the time. Like everyone in my studio is doing this stuff as volunteer work. Basically, we don't get paid for it. I actually get negative funds because I have to pay for a lot of the stuff out of my own pocket. And that's fine. Like I love that. I love the hobby.
yeah,
But especially when you work within a large group, and especially for a lot of the VRChat creatives out there, like developers, world developers, avatar developers, like people who are do music. Burnout is very intense. It'll happen to most people. I've been burnt out before many times, especially in VR filmmaking. And so, like, one of the things that I talk to people about is, like, how to manage your team. Because when you run a studio, when you direct a film, you're not just creatively making a film. You also have to manage the people that, you work with. And, making sure to not like overwork yourself. Like I'm talking like don't do 4-hour film sessions 5 days a week. Like that's not
that's a
going to
lot.
work out well for anyone involved.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's I've been through that stuff. I don't do that stuff, but I've seen how it affects people. It's pretty bad. and like also managing your team to make sure that you know that like how people are feeling. So like you don't overload your devs with like, oh, can you complete these 4 worlds for me in 2 months? Like that sort of stuff will burn out your team. And so kind of the way I go about this, especially for the creative work of like producing a film, is remembering why we do this stuff. I do filmmaking because I like to tell stories, I like to create characters, and I like to like share stuff like this to the world. I've always had a passion in creating films and animations, I guess. And so that's like kind of the thing I remind myself of. And for a lot of the people on my team, it's kind of the same deal. One of the films that we are working on that will actually be one of the upcoming films is called Your Precious Autumn. And it's actually a story about burnout, and kind of what happens when a main character burns out. I guess I can give a little bit information for funsies, because a lot of people already kind of know about the premise of this. But it follows a manga artist named Ame. The name is to be decided. I think it might change. I don't know. But anyways, she's a manga artist who works for a studio, and she's writing like a couple different manga. And she gets burnt out to the point where she's like stumbling around. She doesn't sleep. She doesn't eat. If you've ever, I guess, paid attention to how like Japan work culture maybe,
So
you'll kind
bad.
of understand like where
Oh
this
no.
comes from. Yeah.
So bad.
And eventually she passes out and ends up in a dreamscape where she encounters 3, I guess, trials that tell her or remind her about why she does what she does and kind of the repercussions of going down the wrong path. So that's kind of the next film that I'm working on. We also have other things that we can talk about whenever you want to hear about those other
Yeah.
projects, but that was a relevant one to what we were talking about.
Super excited to see what you guys and even other VR film and just everything like this stuff is just fascinating because like just talking with creative people about what they love to do and just like this whole medium of just like it's like endless. It's like I want to tell a cool story. Let's tell a cool story. Let's do it. Let's get everyone that's passionate on this and on board. And it's like let's make something. I was talking to Starheart about this of how like I want to kind of get
Oh,
back into like VR film a little bit, and like how she's absolutely crazy and she almost burnt out. And Jesus Christ, Star, please take care of yourself. You literally did the in new music video. I still love you in goddamn 5 months with making the world, doing the editing for the video, and goddamn everything. What the fuck? That is crazy. Jesus Christ. five
yeah,
months?
it is.
What the f-
Congrats to Starheart, by the way. That was a good video.
Hell yeah. That's so good. Oh my god. It's like, oh, it's Stars, my new favorite song, honestly. I've shown it to everyone. Like, like everyone. Okay, I really want to talk about this. Like, VR
Mhm.
production and everything is getting so good to the fact that like you could show it to someone else. Like I showed it to my parents, Kong. They're like, "This
Oh,
is not VR," and I'm like, "Mom, this is VR." I
yeah,
got this expression at me.
yeah. I think VR filmmaking it's really getting there. So like I said, one of my biggest like limitations right now is that our medium's not discovered because it doesn't fit into like a niche per se. Like we're not animation and we're not motion capture, we're not like traditional short film. And it's just now like starting to get to a point where things are kind of blurring the lines of like, is this animation or is this like just a VR chat film? I try not to call our films VR chat films because it really limits like who would want to see these things.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I kind of treat it like a mocap animation sort of deal. But if anyone here has like ever seen like the show Ruby, which was a big
Yes.
thing back then by Rooster Teeth,
Yes.
and it still is a big thing. Rip Rooster Teeth, I heard. But anyways,
F in chat.
we kind of like compare ourselves to them too because our animations or rather our VR films kind of look like Ruby back then. And much like Ruby back then too, 3D animation wasn't, I don't think it was like as common either. And so
Mm-mm.
like nowadays indie animation has really taken off. And so my hope is that as long as we keep developing new things, like new stories, new films that can break the realm of just being a VR chat film, that the medium will grow a bit more. Like we're seeing things like Joe Hunting produced a documentary called We Met in VR. Like a lot of people in the VR chat community have seen that one, and that was actually, I guess, not produced. It was on HBO. Like he got the film put on HBO, and that was like such a huge deal for the VR chat like film sphere because, well, that's very interesting to see like a VR chat film make it to like a streaming platform like HBO.
Yeah.
Um, but even so, we're getting there. So Raindance Immersive is a film festival, and their I guess their IRL counterpart is Raindance Film Festival. The immersive is like the VR stuff, and normally they would just do like worlds and performances, but
Mhm.
last year they started for the first time like films and music videos in VR chat, and like there we got to see these films make it out of VR and into the venue of Raindance in London. And so my film or my studio's first film, Emergence, got shown there in London. Other people's films got shown in London as well, the music videos, and we're kind of just breaking the virtual realm a little bit. You know, we're still got a lot to go, but like we're getting there. So I'm like very hopeful that this is gonna be the direction that we go with this.
I'm very excited to see where this medium goes. Cause like what you guys and Metacosm and what everyone's doing with all this creative stuff now, it's freaking stunning. It's amazing. Imagine where this stuff goes. Like this is gonna be crazy, Kong. Like seeing like VR film in like 5 years. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we've made so much progress in just two
Hell yeah.
years. Like some of the techniques that we've developed to make these films stand out has again really grown. Like if you compare like even my first film compared to the one that I'm working on right now, it's like, oh, that's a huge night and day difference. And so as technology advances, more things will come from VR film that will allow us to actually stand out. Because a lot of people forget, or maybe not forget, but rather it's not talked about too much. Animation and real life film take a lot of money, they take a lot of commitment, and they take a lot of time. Like to animate a single like 10-minute short film will take like months upon months upon months, and that's if you have the correct people and a dedicated team. Whereas we could film like a good-looking 20-minute short film in a few months if you're, you know, prepared for it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that there's like, you know, we have a little bit of a special medium here, and I want to grow it so that it becomes more popularized. But I have some plans and I have some films in the works that will assist with that, but they take time. And it's been a little quiet for a little bit, but like the reason why it's been quiet for the studio is we're taking the proper steps of developing these films. We've developed these procedures that we're going with now, like storyboarding, like writing procedures. And by doing this early on, we prevent burnout, we prevent people from feeling like we're all over the place and disorganized. And I have some films coming up.
Heck yeah. You wanna mention some of those films?
I can actually, yeah. Okay, so, so right now the studio has in development 4 active films. This is 4 films that have been greenlit and are like going forward with production. The first one isn't a new film. It is, for those that have seen some of my older films, it's the Penrose Protocol, but we did a bit of a redevelopment of it, director's cut of it. We redid the entire sound design, we added a new intro and outro scene, so it fits the narratives that we formed on Studio Penrose, like I guess the lore of it. And so that's getting a complete redux. We also like cleaned up the fight scene, if anyone remembers that. It's got a whole new development to it. ETA on that, I'm not 100% sure because we are waiting on some sound design things, but suffice to say that all the scenes are done. Editing's done, it just needs to have some sound work on it. And I'm still planning out exactly how to go about this, but I would like to have a screening and stuff like that, a public screening for anyone who wants to join and kind of meet the studio, and kind of learn more about what we do. So that's kind of the first film, though it's not necessarily new. The second film is a different one that we haven't tried before. It's kind of a visual poem is the way we like to call it, kind of like a short film, almost like something that you'd find from Love, Death, and Robots, but like shorter even. It's a short poem about a character kind of coming to terms with death. And this one's not being directed by me. It's being directed by one of our upcoming directors, Quinster. This will be his debut short film with the studio, and it'll be written by, or was written by, one of our fight choreographers. Actually, their name is Crispy Wisp, who's actually helped do a lot of stuff in the past and developed the fight sequence in the Penrose Protocol. So I'm very excited about that. I'm excited to see new directors showcase their work. That will follow Penrose Protocol. And the third film is that the film I mentioned previously called, I think I said Your Precious Autumn, but the name of it is actually Our Precious Autumn. There's a reason of why I accidentally said the wrong word. And you'll have to watch the film to understand why I messed that up. But anyways, that one will follow the burnt out manga artist who kind of discovers or rediscovers why she has a passion in writing in the first place. I'm really excited about this one because I kind of call this one like a like a film festival type film. It's a short film that's very emotional and very unique in the sense of it being filmed in VR, but can also be watched by people who don't play VR chat and will understand it. The film doesn't focus on the VR aspect of anything. The film focuses on an entire narrative of a character burning out from art. And so I want to be able to show this film because it means a lot to me, and also a lot of the team members that are part of the studio. Burnout is really not fun, and I want to provide a film that people can relate to, that also explains like sort of the struggles that we go through even as creatives. Fun fact about that film is we had a lot of writing assistance from people like Ariel Emerald, and also Starheart was in this one as well, helping write it. And so I'm very, very excited about that one. And that one will follow the poem, the visual poem. And so the last film that the studio is working on is not a film. It's actually a series. So Studio Penrose's first film, technically, the first film that the studio was produced, was called Emergence, and that was shown at Raindance 2023. And we developed a lore based on the main character named Lucina Mai. And the series that we're developing is a 10-episode series, continuing sort of that lore, but not centralized only on this character. It's the one I'm actually wearing the avatar of. But it'll follow a lot of stuff. We have a world, we have a cinematic universe centered around the city of New Millennia. Kind of like a different alternative universe of the United States. New Millennia is obviously a metaphor to like New York City. And so there's a lot of fun stuff that we've developed in the lore, and we are very excited to show everyone what that is. And so this 10-episode series will follow a lot of different, like, interesting stories between different characters, I guess, working in this universe. Unfortunately, and the part I always have to throw a disclaimer for and why you haven't seen any marketing or anything like that for this, is because this is kind of unprecedented. Like, doing this level of a film series in VRChat is quite something that we haven't seen before. And so we're taking the time to develop this series as detailed and as like structurally sound as possible before we even grab the camera. And so you wouldn't actually see anything from this series for a long, long time, like probably another year or so before you see any sort of marketing. But suffice to say, we're taking our time to do it properly and actually make something super cool for everyone to enjoy outside of even VRChat. So those are kind of the projects that we have in the works at the moment. As we've actually, the studio's grown quite a bit recently. We've gotten a lot more dev assistants, a lot more people, a lot more writers, a lot more directors. And so as time progresses, we'll probably end up actually producing more and more films. And these are the only ones that that we have actively greenlit right now. So sorry, that was a lot of words, but those were all the projects.
That was amazing. Okay, very excited. And I feel like a lot of people like really dialing it back to like the manga artist one. I think a lot of people are going to like relate to that one, and I feel like Burnout with a lot of people is like something that people could relate to. And it's very something that's not talked about, a lot in this space. And especially with like how we briefly mentioned like Japan's film industry and entertainment industry and just work culture and hierarchy and all that is bad. But the fact of like one of my new
Hmm.
favorite shows or that came out kind of recently is like it's called Zom 100. The main character in that
Oh
story,
yeah.
basically he was overworked, literally to like he almost like he was like he wanted to like like he was going crazy, and basically what literally like saved him and like made him happier was like literally it took the world ending to like be like, oh, I could actually like do whatever I want now, which is like a crazy story.
Yeah. I actually watched the first few episodes of that. It was insane.
Yeah, I love the direction of it, like how all of the like the kind of like what gory scenes in the regular zombie kind of thing. It's very colorful, like
Hmm.
the depiction of it, of like it's kind of seen through the lens of him, of like how he kind of sees the world again, and how it's like more just bright and colorful and all that to him, which is very very cool.
Yeah.
It's so good. I love it.
Yeah.
And kind of okay, I will bring this up. I am currently watching this. It's coming out weekly, I think,
Hmm.
and I think the manga is coming close to an end. It does get a little weird. I've heard.
Hmm.
I haven't read the manga, but like I like it because it's about the entertainment industry and the kind of like idol culture and just overall entertainment industry in Japan and kind of that. It's like Oshinoko, great show.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's really it kind of explains how just how difficult, how hard, like how it is, like just the Japan entertainment industry is. It explained things of like plays, films, manga art, how things get adapted to actual like shows and reality TV shows, and how everything is like the dark side of the entertainment industry, and it's really interesting. Super cool.
I am very happy with like more stuff that's been coming out of that sort of topic. Like, I mean, entertainment is like something that well obviously everyone enjoys, right?
Yeah,
But like there is the cost of producing these things that people sometimes don't like account for and don't understand fully. Like we love our films, right? We love our shows, we love our manga, we love our anime. But there are people that produce these things, and a lot of the time they're not treated very well. And that's why people think of like the entertainment industry, not just in Japan, but also even in like Hollywood, as a very brutal like medium. And so that's why I'm excited to have a film that kind of showcases like that in kind of the more like our aspect as creatives. One thing I forgot to mention about that too is like, so I really like this film because there's a lot of creatives like that are part of this film. The manga that's being drawn is actually being drawn by one of our artists in the studio. They also play VRChat, and so we get to see like art drawn by people that part of the studio. It's written by a bunch of people that are all creatives and have all had their fair share of burnout. And so even though it's a film that I directed, it's a film that we all kind of you know have a part of or have a heart in. So I'm very excited to share that one. But sorry guys, you won't see it till like winter. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing in that one too that we are going to do very slowly, but in a good way.
yeah, and I do want to point this out, like just in general, of like take your time on projects. Really, if you feel like if it needs time, like don't rush anything. Like even with like just deadlines are annoying as fuck, and like taking your time on stuff and really like kind of going that way and like kind of getting a more finished product you're proud of is so much more satisfying to what having something you're proud of to having something that's like a little bit more unfinished.
Yeah, I completely support that notion. I've been responsible for causing deadlines for our team sometimes, though they were necessary at the time. Deadlines are they're very detrimental. The way I kind of like look at this sort of thing is either you force these deadlines on people and everyone gets burnt out and you risk any future projects from happening, or you're proactive about maintaining like a healthy sort of like studio operation or film production and then you get to continue on. Because if people get burnt out, they're not going to want to work on the projects anymore, and you can just cut like your team goodbye. And that's not what we want, you know. Like we want to actually
Yeah.
continue the films. One thing that I noticed is that if you have a team that is very unmotivated, every film is going to be a chore. Even during like the screening day, when you finally get to show it off, there's going to be that sigh of relief instead of a sigh of like, oh, we did it, guys. We, you know, it's like a positive sort of spin on it.
Yeah.
And so I've seen a lot of like creatives kind of go through that route where they burn themselves out and they start to like resent even their film. And I'm sure that's a very common thing for not just like, you know, filmmakers, but also world developers, musicians, video creators, content creators, you know. And so, yeah.
It's just that with so much mediums of like, I do want to touch on something with a certain studio that's in hot water and has been for a while, in the kind of anime industry. But I do want to touch on that a
Mappa?
little bit. It's fucking Mappa. It's fucking Mappa. We're gonna, you know, we can't have we
you-
can't have a goddamn episode talking about production. We're not talking about how abusive fucking Mappa is. Jesus Christ! Like, come on, come
How did I
on.
know you were gonna
It's
say
so
Mappa?
it's so bad. It's so bad. Like there's just memes on memes on memes of like even animators finally speaking out on how bad the working conditions are.
We strive to not be like Mappa. One, because we're not paid, but two, because yeah.
I'm not sure if they're gonna recover. There's so much bad backlash. It's just so much stuff going on with that studio. It's so, oh my god. It's the thing of like, and I will say this for all create. Do not take on that many projects if you know you cannot. It's like, hey, we're gonna do. We have Chainsaw Man to do. We have Jujutsu Kaisen. They are doing like every goddamn big show along with other things, and it's like, holy shit, chill. Finish one thing, then do the next thing, then do the next. Oh, it's so painful to watch like such a good like kind of like artists and animators go through that and have that like be an actual chore and have that stuff like animators getting burnt out because of the working conditions because there's so much talent kind of being lost. You know, it's so pain. It's so, oh my god. We really need to like just as a whole industry, everyone get it together, pull it together. We got the.
I do think that the way things are going, especially with the new films and anime and shows that kind of like highlight the problems, that there's going to be an increase in pressure placed on these, I don't know, these studios and these corporations, not only by the public but also by like government factors. So I'm hoping that as time progresses, that we'll get like better in that side of things. But at the very least, like I'm not Studio Mappa, I'm Studio Penrose, and so I can take care of my people and at least ensure that like the team members that I work with are not going to be burnt out like that. So, yeah, do your part, right? And not
Yeah.
like causing explosion of the entertainment industry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just kind of learning about all that, and it's pretty crazy on how crazy just some industries and entertainment industry and everything is of like how much crazy things goes on actually behind the scenes, right? But with all that of
Mm-hmm.
like how production goes, it's like, oh, you have the source material, and this is such a big thing with it's you have source material, you have your script, you have your manga, you have your whatever is your source material, and trying to like adaptate that to an actual show, and it's like, what do we keep, what do we add, and then it's like, this is where the meme comes from. The goddamn manga is better than the actual thing, or the damn play is better than the thing, or like the manga's better than the player. It's like so much things have to go to actual production, and then it's like so much things with like scripts and production, and then like kind of going through the whole like, you know, like it's so much stuff that people don't understand that want to like get mad about, and it's like they don't even know the first thing about production, and that's why it gets on my nerves.
Yeah, one of the things that I try to emphasize too is, especially to people that are like really excited about projects and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And honestly, my studio hasn't had a problem with this because like I'm pretty transparent about like where projects are, like where we're going with them. I provide like the studio like updates all the time with like progress of things. But like these productions are not fast. Like they, we're a volunteer-based team. Everything's funded out of my own pockets, and so like these films aren't going to be made super quick. And thankfully, our audience and the people that we know and talk to are like very cognizant of that. Because we talk about it all the time, like, hey, like this film Autumn, Our Precious Autumn, is taking a while because we're, writing all this sort of stuff. They were doing dev stuff. And it's a very difficult writing challenge that we had with this, by the way. Like, that film is not easy to write in terms of dialogue because of the more sensitive sort of, like, topics that it covers. But anyways, like, so we haven't had that problem where people are, like, putting a pressure on us to, like, release something. Part of the reason of why that hasn't been a problem for us is we don't, like, release trailers and any sort of, like, publication or any sort of, like, marketing until we are confident with when we can release the film. Like, one of the things that I like struggled with for a while, or rather, one of the things I had to experience was what the ramifications of announcing a project too early and having people like get this initial hype, but then like it drags on and on and on. You don't know when you're going to release the film. You start to like lose your audience. People start to get like, hey, where's this film? Like, where's the short? Like, and it puts a lot of pressure on you. It also puts a lot of pressure
Yeah,
on your
things
team.
start piling, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and so like now with again, this is one of the things that we learned because of time and progress is, okay, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. Studio's gonna be quiet, okay? There's not gonna be anything really going on for a while, and that's okay. But the second that we're ready and we can say, okay, we can release the film, then we just hit it hard with the marketing. We release the trailer, we release all the posters and marketing, and that sort of stuff. We build the hype that way, because then if we do that, then our studio isn't going to be stressed to release the film when we're not ready to release it. And that's kind of one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give to like new and upcoming filmmakers, especially in VR, is like do stuff at your own pace, but don't shoot your shots too early. If you care about marketing, some people don't really care about that stuff, and they'll just do like trailers whenever. But like if you care about that sort of stuff, I would highly recommend like making sure that you're okay to release these things before you release them. If you're like banking on hype or something like that, because what happens is if you release a trailer too early and you're not ready and you don't know when the film's going to come out, you are going to start getting pressured to release it, and that's going to add some stress to you. So that was one of the things I learned, was just to be prepared,
Yeah, and the way like kind of like Studio Penrose and like kind of how that's going, it's like it's so much better to create all the hype and everything later, so it's like you don't feel pressured. But like with a lot of these other like studios or companies, for example, like for anime or like a bunch of other stuff, like they have to get stuff out, they have to get trailers out. That's where all the public medium, because we have the damn internet nowadays. It's like, oh, where the hell is this
Yep.
episode? Oh, there's a delay. Why is there a delay? Like, it's so much just pressure, and it's like let the people work. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah, one thing to really make sure that's hammered down is like we and many others are like, we're not huge YouTubers, we're not huge content creators. The Penrose YouTube is only at 903 subs right now because we kind of started it from very small. When we went independent, and so like we're not getting paid to do any of this, and so that's why we don't have like the ability to release something a little early and just like push more money into getting it produced. Like when you're working volunteer based, you don't have that like option at all. Whereas with the other big studios and like especially content creators on YouTube that have like millions of subs, it's a little different. It's a little different, and there's more things that you have to do. Like you have to maintain audience retention by doing this and that. And so I understand the struggle in that sort of aspect because we're not to that point. We're a pretty small studio, and so yeah, kind of a weird distinction, but
yeah. I mean, I do want to say just for just more, just people getting into film, YouTube, whatever you want, like arts, just generally creating things. Do stuff out of passion or like something of like you want to create, please. And it's like, oh, it's like, hey, one day it's like, I wanted to create like like an original song or something. And it's like, take everything at your own pace. learn, listen to music, listen to your favorite music, go look at editing tutorials, kind of like learn stuff at your own pace, and like kind of take things where it's like kind of like a passion thing of like I just want to make things and kind of have fun with things, and not really like thinking of like, oh, I want to like upscale this 5x and like this mem. It's like it's things are stressful, you know. Take things at your own pace. It will be a lot more fun for you.
Yeah, no, so I also, I guess this is a good time to clarify because I've been talking so much in like the logistics of operating a studio and like preventing team burnout and stuff like that. But like, important thing is that I only am talking about this because this is just my experience as like a running a studio per se. But
Yeah.
a lot of people start out by doing very small things like small projects with a team of like 4 people, and I encourage more of that because that's exactly how I started. That's how almost everyone I knew started making films. Is that just the initial passion to create a project, to do like a music video or a video. I encourage people to do that. So another community that I help run aside from Studio Penrose is what's called the Filmmakers of VRChat. We're like a Discord group that helps people with like filmmaking VR. Like we hold like what do you call them, like classes and stuff like that to help workshops to introduce people into filmmaking and to try to get people more interested into it because the direction of our medium depends on more people joining, and so I try to like mentor people to produce films, and I try to encourage people to start small and just have fun with it. If you don't have the passion, then it's gonna burn out quick, to produce these films. Some people go into it for the wrong reasons of like, hey, I want fame and fortune. It's like, that's not how this works.
It's not gonna get.
Like,
Yeah, it's not gonna
that's
get
not how.
far.
Yeah, it's not gonna work
Yeah.
like that. So you start small and you kind of just grow on from there. So for those who are interested in filmmaking, you guys should try it. It's actually very simple in VR. I mean, there's like it does get
Complexities.
complex in some ways, like yeah,
Yeah.
complexities to it, like camera work and stuff like that. But like that's all stuff you learn as you go, and there's no pressure for you to learn that stuff immediately. All it takes is to grab a camera. I've seen a lot of interesting stuff done with the default VRChat camera. If you don't want to get into VRC lens quickly, so casting call, right? Go for it.
Yeah, and even if it's as simple as like kind of just getting the VR film or actual film or just like even just like starting with like YouTube videos. It's just like get your foot in the door of like I want to make a video. I want to like or like you're passionate about like for example like oh, I like this piece of technology I found is really cool and it's like my first experience with it. Let's do something on that. Let's just make something about it because this is cool. Like, and then go from like everything kind of branches out from one thing of like creativity of like once you find something that you really like, it's like, well, I eventually want to get into DJing making or like music or like film or everything kind of creative thing branches off one another a little.
Yeah, exactly.
But then there's that big overarching thing called time. There's not enough time to do stuff. I want to do so much more things. God damn it. Time's holding everyone back. It's holding all the creatives back. We want to do so much more, and it's like time's not on our side. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. That's another fun aspect of this sort of stuff is like, I do this stuff as a hobby. The most majority of my team does as well. Like again, we don't get paid for any of this stuff. We just do it as a hobby. And we all have like real life jobs. We have, partners. We have things that we have to focus on outside of the VR industry and I guess sphere. And it's important for people to remember to balance life. I know this sounds kind of cringe or whatever, but like you
It's
gotta
true.
touch grass.
It's so
You
true.
gotta touch grass. Like
Or just like,
you're gonna get like burnt out even more if you focus only on the VR stuff.
yeah, or like the balance of like, it just sounds like so like having stable job, having passions, you time, friend time, just having all that, combining everything, and it's like everything will be okay. Just find a good amount of balance, and things will be okay. Just yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I like how this is. I really want to ask. This is gonna be the most random thing of the whole episode
Mhm.
because literally we just ranted and talked about the entertainment industry and everything for the whole episode.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Holy, so good. Do you have a favorite ocean animal?
Sea turtle, no doubt.
Hell yeah,
Wait, but no, no. What about
they're
pufferfish?
cool.
Like they're
I
kind of
mean,
goofy
oh,
looking. I like
they are
pufferfish
so
though.
goofy. Did you know, like, oh, I forget the Japanese name for it, but, like, you could eat pufferfish or, like, this, like, really poisonous one, but, like, it has to be, like, really prepared correctly or else, like, die, you know,
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to
dangerous.
risk dying though.
Yeah,
You
I don't
know.
want
And
to, I
also,
don't want to eat
pufferfish
a,
are so cute.
yeah, I don't want to eat the pufferfish.
I want to just find one and poke it so it like inflates, but like I
Oh, like,
also
with a
feel like
stick?
that's potentially like a way to die. Yeah, like
Oh,
probably
yeah.
with a stick, but just gently like just and it just you know.
Yeah, and then it's just, like, floating.
But yeah, but you're not supposed to touch sea life, so
Yeah.
I guess I don't encourage anyone to do that, but like I
No, no, no.
wish I could do that. If you live by the ocean and find one. But-
Yeah. I mean, like, one thing I kind of want to bring up just randomly because, like, the ocean's such a cool place. You know, it's like one of the things that, like, kind of on the point. You know, it's like also one of the first things here. But like, okay, I think you could agree with this. I think
Mhm.
everyone and all people could agree with this. You have a boat. You're in the ocean, or like you're just out in the middle of nowhere, in the ocean. You look down. You cannot tell me you're not terrified of that. The fear of the unknown of like
Oh, that's
what
horrifying.
like that is horrifying. No one like only like the crazy like you everyone's scared of that. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I. Could you imagine if like light could penetrate water all the way down to the bottom? Because then
That'd
you'd
be
be able to see
so-
everything straight
oh my-
down. That'd be horrifying.
I would
That'd
not
be
want to.
pretty bad.
I would not want to look at that. I would not.
Yeah.
Or for example, like
But then it'd
somebody's
be
like
kinda
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, like somebody's like really interesting like sea film like you know like the Megalodon movies like really funny like the Meg, you know like oh my god, what if the
Yeah.
Megalodon was still alive nowadays and like there's like this trench in like the ocean floor and it was like still alive and they're like oh shit guys it got through, oh fuck we're so fucked. It's like that's crazy. Like that story or like
Or the Kraken, right? The big
Yeah.
squid or whatever.
or a big octopus. Yeah.
Octopus. Yeah.
That thing's huge. That thing will take out like whales. I'm like, damn.
One of my most weird, memorable like ocean moments was I went to I think it was like Florida once, and I was walking the beach and like I stepped on a fucking like a flatfish. I don't know if anyone's
Oh.
seen one of those. It's got like eyes
Uh-huh.
on the top of its head, and
Yeah.
like it just like slithered under me, and I like screeched because like I was not expecting that. It was also when like Steve Irwin was like killed by a stingray, and so
Oh.
I freaked the fuck out thinking that that was like a stingray, but it really was just this goofy flatfish. So,
Goofy fish.
and again, if you've ever looked up a picture, they look ridiculous. Like
They
they're just like this
do.
flatfish, and their eyes are pointing upwards. It's like, why did I get scared by that?
Oh,
That's funny.
yeah. Go check out Studio Penrose. Hell yeah. We definitely got to get like Quinn and like Peach Bite and like we got to do like a 3-person, 4-person episode. That'd be sick, honestly. Thanks the audience for coming out. Thanks Khang for coming out. This has been amazing. And I'll see you all in the virtual world in the next KaiyoCast episode. Bye. Bye.